Good evening, everyone. I am Lynn Normett, Chair of the 2025 NABJ Elections Committee. Thank you for joining us for the first of two NABJ candidates forums that will precede our convention. That conference will be held August 6th to August 10th in Cleveland, where the NABJ will celebrate our 50th anniversary. It will be a great convention. Tonight, we will hear from candidates for President, Vice President Broadcast, and Region 1 Director. A week from tonight, on July 9th, the second elections forum will feature candidates for Vice President Digital, including Travell Anderson, Vance Lane, Roland Martin, and Angela Smith, as well as candidates for NABJ Secretary, Corey Atkinson, Marie Torres, and Bonita Sastre. That forum will be moderated by past NABJ President Candace Presley. So you should register now for the July 9th elections forum, which will also run from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Regarding the 2025 elections, please be reminded that only members who joined NABJ or renewed their membership on or before June 1st are eligible to vote in this year's elections. The electronic voting period is from July 14th to August 8th. Voting polls close August 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. All candidates are required to sign a campaign agreement to follow the rules and timeline established by the Elections Committee. Some of you may not realize that. And any candidate found in violation of the rules will be listed on the committee decision webpage at NABJ Elections Central, which is open for members to review as they prepare to vote. If you have any campaign-related questions or concerns, please contact us, the Election Committee, at elections chair 2025 at nabj.org. Again, elections chair 2025 at nabj.org. Tonight, we are very happy to have as our moderator, Tyler Clifford, a breaking news editor at Bloomberg in Washington, D.C., where he covers economic policy. Tyler recently joined Bloomberg after nearly 7 years in New York, where he has covered financial markets for CNBC and national affairs for Reuters. Most recently, he completed his MBA at Columbia Business School. Congratulations, Tyler. Tyler first joined NABJ in 2017 as a member of the Detroit chapter and witnessed firsthand some inner workings of convention planning the very next year when we held our convention in Detroit in 2018. He is a member of the Business Journalist Task Force and former finance chair of the Young Black Journalist Task Force, which puts on the annual Emerging Journalist Conference in New York City. Tyler also is currently a member of the NABJ Finance Committee. I'm happy to turn the forum over to our moderator, Tyler Clifford, one of NABJ's up-and-coming young leaders. Over to you, Tyler.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I really appreciate that introduction.
Mm-hmm.
So greetings, everyone. Again, my name is Tyler Clifford, and I want to thank you all for joining us for this election forum. I've been a member of NABJ since 2017, and I'm honored to help moderate this event as we approach the 50th anniversary of our organization, which was formed years after the release of the 1968 Kerner Commission report. This report revealed how mainstream media has historically disenfranchised Black journalists, perpetuated harmful stereotypes, and overlooked systemic racism, among other issues. Today marks a pivotal moment in our history and an inflection point for our industry at large. I'm excited to help you all get to know each of the 7 candidates joining us today, learn about their visions for the future, and help you make a decision for who you want to support in the next convention. Again, eligible members can cast ballots electronically starting July 14th through August 8th. Before we begin, let me outline the rules for today's forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statements. They'll have 2 minutes to respond to each question. There will be 30 seconds allotted for rebuttals. And finally, each candidate will have 1 minute for their closing remarks. And a quick note for the attendees, please use the Q&A box to submit your questions rather than the chat box. Again, use the Q&A box to submit your questions rather than the chat box. And I'll quickly introduce each candidate. For Region 1 Director, we have Melanie Roy. She's supervising producer for daily podcasts at the Wall Street Journal. And we have Eric Sellers, an associate producer at ESPN. For Vice President of Broadcast, we have Raylan Johnson, Director of Weekend News Programming at MSNBC, and Walter Smith Randolph, Executive Producer of Investigations at CBS New York. For President, we have Aaron Haynes, Editor-at-Large for the 19th. We have Ken Lemon, a reporter for WSOC TV, and Dion Rabowen, founder and CEO of the Black Press. Let's get started. So we can go ahead and start off. I'll start off with Aaron Haynes to give her opening statement for president. Aaron.
Thank you so much, Tyler, and also thank you so much to the NABJ Elections Committee for hosting this forum. Good evening, NABJ family. I'm Aaron Haynes. I'm editor-at-large for the 19th. I'm a 25-year NABJ member. I have never missed a convention. I look forward to seeing so many of you in Cleveland. I've served in various positions in the organization, including student and professional chapter leadership. I've been a member at every stop of my career, from Atlanta to Orlando to Los Angeles to Philadelphia. I'm a founding member of the Young Black Journalists Task Force. I was your vice president of print for the National Board from 2011 to 2015, and I'm your current Atlanta Association of Black Journalists vice president of print. But now I'm running to be the next president of NABJ because I want our beloved organization to be for you what it has been for me. This is the generation that will take our organization and our profession into the next 50 years. My campaign is about our story, our moment, and our future. Now, you heard Tyler mention the Kerner Commission. When the Kerner Commission was published, Black journalists made up just 5% of American newsrooms. More than 50 years later, that number is only 6%. Our presence in this industry has barely moved, not because our founders didn't fight, but because we've had to fight just to hold our ground. And now, the question before us is not whether NABJ can survive, but how we must evolve. Because our next 50 years cannot and will not look like our next 50. Not if we want to remain relevant, impactful, and powerful. I've spent my life telling the story of Black America. At the beginning of my career, I was writing about the vestiges of racism, while joining a generation of young NABJ members entering newsrooms more diverse than the ones our mentors had to break into. And still, we pushed for more. I've lived through this industry's downturn and its turn away from equity. I've watched too many of us be silenced, sidelined, or shut out. And through it all, whether inside or outside of the newsroom, I've been a truth teller about who we are and an advocate for who we can be. When legacy institutions wouldn't make room, I helped build something.
Thank you for that. Next, we'll move on to Ken Lemon. Ken.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you. I'm Ken Lemon, NABJ president. One thing you should know about me, my first 2 years on this board of directors, I found myself fighting for the rights of a Black female journalist to wear natural hair on the air. That was the first of a couple of times that we had to rewrite policy for just one company. And that person didn't come from a large city, didn't come from a network. They came from a small town in Mississippi. I have fought for journalists who found themselves in newsrooms antithetical to Black journalists. I have fought for Black female managers who've seen their authority taken away from them, and all in small towns across the city. Why does that matter? It's because many of us are in those small towns. And if you're not in those small towns now, you probably started there. But no one can ignore what's going on in Washington, D.C., the noise coming out now, the latest news about Paramount and the $16 million settlement. And the two individuals there who believe they can reshape not only journalism, but the work of Black journalists. We've stood up against that when it comes to the Haitian Times. We stood up against that when it came to making sure that DEI policies are supported in major networks and talking to those news leaders. But I also know that many of you are concerned, just like I am as a daily beat reporter, about the empty desks next to you and the desk that's empty just across from you, and seeing newsrooms shrink and wondering when that shrinkage happens to you. So this is what you need, and this is what we'll provide for you as NABJ president. That is certified learning opportunities to help you understand things like the proper application of AI so that you're successful in your newsroom, and training opportunities that'll help you build value. That includes making sure that there's a pay equity study so that when you understand your value, now you know exactly what to ask for, and that there are free contract reviews so that you can build equity and level out
10 seconds.
that balancing board there so that you have that opportunity. Look, as NABJ president, my job is to make sure you stay on the job and that your career advances and grows
Time.
at a pace that you deserve.
Thank you, Ken. We'll now move on next to Dion. Dion, you have the floor.
All right, Tyler, I appreciate you pronouncing my last name right. For everyone out there who's looking at it, easy way to remember is you're going with Rabowen. And I am running because right now we are in just an absolutely pivotal moment for journalism and for Black journalists especially. I'm running for president because NABJ needs a new direction, and we can't rely on the same old people to take us there. My campaign is about leadership for everyone, and it's about stepping up and making NABJ into the organization that it can be for all of us. Not just a few of us who are in the right social circles or in the right industries or know the right people. I'm here to stand up for every NABJ member. As a reporter who's been working in business journalism for close to 20 years at places like the Wall Street Journal, Reuters, and Yahoo Finance, I spent my career analyzing balance sheets, breaking down billion-dollar deals, and holding powerful organizations and institutions accountable. I know what it takes to grow an organization. And I also know when one is leaving money on the table as well as opportunity. That's what I'm seeing right now from our organization. Y'all, NABJ has failed us. It's failed Black journalists, and it's failing Black people. The organization right now, as of its latest tax filings, is sitting on more than $8 million in assets and has more than $2 million sitting in a bank account. But what has the organization done with that money? We've seen the same tired convention, the same infighting, and the same penny pinching. It's time to change that. So I have a 5-point plan to transform NABJ that's going to create more services, better programming, and more support. We're going to make NABJ into an organization that's about members, not just the big names or the folks who know the right people. I'm going to get through my 5-point plan real quick so I don't get called on time. Step 1 is we're going to be unafraid, protect our people, and expand our power. That means having a rapid response team and demanding real answers when folks mistreat Black journalists. Oh, damn. All right. 2 is be a leader for all NABJ members. 3 is modernize and elevate. 4 is grow intentionally. And 5 is get our money right, secure the bag so we can protect the mission. I hope that I get a chance to answer some questions from Tyler about what those things entail. You can also learn about it for nabjprez.com.
All right. Thank you, Dion. I appreciate that. We'll now move on to Vice President of Broadcast candidates. We have Raylan. Raylan, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. This is a crucial time for broadcast media. As you know, our profession is going through so much: cable spinoffs, split-offs, mergers, lawsuits from the current administration. As VP of Broadcast, I will lead members through this moment so we aren't just surviving, but we are thriving. Members I have spoken to feel that we could benefit more from additional leadership that is clear on vision, communication, and accountability. I'm a working mother who rose through the ranks of this industry to give my family a better life, and I am proud of what I've accomplished. I can think of many times in which NABJ has been there for me and when I needed NABJ, and that's why I'm stepping up, because broadcast journalists deserve better from their NABJ today. If we want new outcomes, we need to be open to new leadership. We are fighting for freedom of speech while the FCC is literally watching, fighting to place content as people continue to cord cut, fighting to keep up with tech and tools that are already being outfitted in our newsrooms. I see you and I hear you, so let me help you. And here's what I want to do to meet the moment. First of all, for all the weeks of the year outside of the convention, you deserve the following: urgent and timely communication about everything that touches the broadcast industry, training on any platform that is coming to your newsroom so you are becoming more valuable to yourself and your employer. I want to bring together the best and the brightest in our industry to workshop with you on the leading issues right now. If that's AI, if that's digital tools, legal seminars to help you keep speaking truth to power, and a comprehensive advocacy system. We can be the publishers of our own list of game changers in this industry. The best and the brightest are already within this organization. Let NABJ be the leading voice to help build the choir of your admirers. And those of us in this industry know the future is not possible without monetization. I will bring in new dollars, new partnerships, and share with you the ways in which we've been scaling our business at MSNBC. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with all of you tonight. The pleasure is all mine. And if I don't see you in Cleveland or online, I want you to know that I'm always going to be here for you.
Time.
Thank you for that. Walter, you have the floor.
All right, thanks, Tyler. Hi, everyone. My name is Walter Smith Randolph. I am the executive producer of investigations at CBS News New York. I am your current vice president of broadcast, and I'm running for a second term. Why? Because I love this organization. I've learned so much about this organization. I've been helping lead the way. I've served as co-chair of the Young Journalist Task Force, which launched the Millennial Media Summit and our Emerging and Investigative Journalist Summit. I've helped establish a recurring revenue stream for that task force. I also served as the national treasurer from 2020 to 2023, helping guide NABJ's finances through the pandemic. Also helped launch the Weather and Climate Task Force and Investigative Reporters Task Force. And I've been serving for the past 2 years as your vice president of broadcast. So what have I been doing? I helped establish our Protect Journalists Initiative, which offers trainings and discounts focused on protecting our members and online and in the field. Spearhead virtual and in-person advocacy visits at broadcast outlets across the nation. Develop curriculum and trainings for our NABJ investigative track at the annual convention. And I've helped strengthen relationships between NABJ and like-minded organizations like IRE, PEN America, the Freedom of Press Foundation, which helps provide more opportunities for our members. And I've secured new sponsorships to support task forces and activities. I'm running on meeting this moment. What does that mean? That means fierce advocacy for fair and diverse newsrooms, equal opportunities, and defending press freedom. It means leveling up our programming and trainings. AI is here. Deregulation is on the horizon. Companies are splitting. We need to train our members to be journalists, not just broadcast journalists, not digital journalists, not print journalists, but journalists. So that way we can use our skills and see where we can use them in other places. I hope to launch a salary and opportunity survey to help our broadcasters think outside the box and cross-train our members to also prepare NABJ for the next 50 years. That means growing our staff, continuing to firm up our finances, and expanding our web presence and better collaboration with our chapters and task forces. I'm here to advocate for our members and to empower our members. And so I hope that I have your vote.
Thank you for that, Walter. And I will move to the last group, but not least of course, Region 1 directors, candidates. We'll start with Melanie. Melanie, you have the floor.
Thanks, Tyler. Good evening, NABJ. My name is Melanie Roy, and I am NABJ's Region 1 Director. I was appointed in November of 2023. I also work at the Wall Street Journal as a supervising producer in the audio department, and I've also served as president of the Philadelphia chapter. But I'm here tonight because there is more work to do. I didn't have a full term, but in my limited time, I've been able to reunite the region and take the time to really listen to what chapters wanted and needed from NABJ leadership. And one of those requests was a regional conference, and I delivered. And I'm running to expand on the success of that event, which took place in April at Howard University in DC. It was the first in-person conference since 2019 with nearly 200 attendees, and we raised about $25,000 in sponsorship. So if reelected, here's my plan for the next 2 years. Stronger chapters, stronger region, more regional conferences that deliver, and mentorship that moves us forward. So stronger chapters, stronger regions, create a regional collaboration hub with shared event planning and resources. Fundraising in this climate is hard, but if we work together, we can better serve the members of Region 1. Also, more regional conferences that deliver, bringing value, visibility, and voices to every conference with job fairs, career building sessions, and networking with industry leaders. And lastly, student mentorship that moves us forward. Last year, I helped the students of Penn State establish a chapter. One of the things that they said was that they were lonely and they wanted community. So I want to formalize a program connecting student chapters with professional chapters for real-world career guidance, leadership development, and stronger support pipelines. I know what it takes to get the job done because I've done it for the last year and a half. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Melanie. And we'll move to Eric. Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Hello, NABJ family. My name is Eric Sellers. I'm the president of the Southern New England Association of Black Journalists, as well as the chairman of NABJ's Broadcast Task Force. And I'm excited to say that I was the 2025 awardee of NABJ's Community Service Award. And I'm running to serve. I think it's time for us to activate our region. And one of the things I want to do is make it a safe space for everyone to get involved. For me, NABJ has changed my life for over 10 years. I went to the 2016 NABJ convention in Washington, D.C. with $1 and a dream, and I left with a position at ESPN. I've been there ever since, and I promised to pay it forward, and I'm going to continue to pay it forward with everyone within our region. So what does that look like? For me, it's going to be supporting our student chapters as well as our young professionals. As the president of NABJ, I've already started doing that work. I was able to plan an event for Morgan State student chapter. They mentioned that they wanted to activate, and they wanted more events. I was able to go find Morgan State alum, have them come back and pay it forward to their alma mater. It was called Bear Centrals. I also created a panel called Breaking Barriers. I noticed at the regional convention, there wasn't many events tailored towards young professionals, and that's why I created the Breaking Barriers panel, and now that is going to continue to grow. So we had an event last week, and it was a wonderful opportunity to get seasoned professionals to come back and give advice to young professionals, and I want to expand that for our region. I also want us to collaborate more. I'm excited to say that my local chapter was able to partner with the Baltimore Association for a recent event. And I want to see more of that in our region. I think that having a regional conference is amazing, but we could do a lot more. So I promise to deliver on more events and activate our region. So whether that's quarterly, my goal is to every 2 months to have an event. And I also want to cater to the young professionals and the student chapters. So every student chapter in our region, I'm going to tailor events specifically for them, finding people to come back and pay it forward, just like I aim to do. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity and vote Eric Sellers for NABJ Regional 1 Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And all right, time for the fun part. Let's get some questions going. So I'll start off with the presidents, and we'll go in reverse order. So I'll start with you, Dion. And this question will be for all the candidates. So we'll start with Dion, we'll go to Ken, and then to Aaron. So as president, you'll be the chair of the board, CEO of NABJ, which includes more than 4,000 members. And the president also appoints chairs and members of various standing committees. Most importantly is NABJ's finances. What experiences do you have with fundraising, and what does NABJ need to do to pursue alternative sources of revenue to secure our finances amid threats to DEI?
Listen, I love this. I love this question, Tyler. Thank you for that. So number one, my experience as a business and financial journalist dates back a decade. Like I said in my opening statement, I've been watching these companies and I've been reading through balance sheets, looking over billion-dollar deals, and I know what's happening and what it takes for an organization to grow. I've also read through NABJ's 990 tax forms, which is how I found out about this $8 million that the organization has in assets and about the over $2 million sitting in a bank account earning that's right, 0% interest. This is also how I understand how we can grow our organization, how we can cut costs for emerging journalists to attend the convention by 90%, how we can cut hotel costs for all members to attend the convention by 50%, how we can invest in the organization and grow, hiring executives with high-level expertise to standardize and improve the organization. My experience, like I said, I run my own business called The Black Press. I've been running my own business. I own a couple of homes. I know how to make business decisions. I've been an investor for over 20 years. Now, this is all about understanding. We are making a number of huge mistakes, like not investing or having our money in savings and just letting it sit there in a bank account. Our investments earned 1.5%, less than 1.5% over the last 5 years, while the stock market gained 17.5% each year. We have missed out on over $5 million by having this poor investment structure. And that's just a result of not knowing what to do. Our current leaders haven't known what to do. And when folks like myself have come to them and said, hey, let me help you, let me change the way you're doing this, we've been stonewalled or we've been given the runaround. So what we're going to do is we're going to invest in the organization, and we're going to create an investment structure where NABJ's assets grow. We should have more than 10 or $15 million right now in assets, and we don't, simply because of a lack of knowledge and a lack of execution. I'm going to bring that money to NABJ so we can grow our organization, invest in scholarships, fellowships, and other programming to improve
All right.
NABJ.
All right. Thank you very much, Ken.
Look, I challenge you to do one thing. Ask on record, understand what people have done before, and that'll tell you what they'll do in this position. As a NABJ Region 3 Director, we raised the most money of any regional in Birmingham in 2019, and that's by going outside of media companies. That's going to Mercedes-Benz, that's going to Alabama Power, and that is rendering back almost half of that money back to NABJ, nearly $100,000 in that space. When we jumped into HBCU Initiative, in the span of 2 years, we raised $60,000 for student scholarships. As NABJ president over the last 2 years, I raised almost $100,000 in grant and over $250,000, and that's money from new sponsor partners. So when you talk about what are you going to do to go out and raise that money, one thing that I talk to our Council of Presidents about doing is building relationships, going to those media executives and saying, are you with NABJ? Are you with Black journalists? And if you are, how are you showing it? What are you doing to show up in these spaces? It is working with them not only to build those partnerships early, but to retain those partnerships throughout those relationships, and then calling back those successes. So when we raised we raised nearly $100,000 in Birmingham. You know how we did that? We went into the same power company in Atlanta the year before, and we were so successful having them come in and give us a smaller amount of money that we went back in Birmingham and we said, call back and find out exactly what we did last year and how that worked and how we were able to do things like search engine optimization, how we're doing entrepreneurship, how we're doing coding, not so people can go out and build platforms and become project managers, but so they can break the ice and understand what it's like to become an entrepreneur and run and operate your own shop yourself.
10 seconds.
Those are the things that I'll do in those positions. Those are the things that my DNA shows you I can still do.
Thank you very much, Ken. Aaron, you have the floor.
Yeah. So, when legacy newsrooms would not make room, I helped to build something new as co-founder of the 19th. And part of what that meant, my job as editor at large is, yes, to be responsible for the editorial, helping to shape the editorial vision of the organization, but it is also to fundraise. I had to help make the 19th sustainable right away. And 5 years later, I'm happy to say that we are among the biggest success stories of the last 10 years in nonprofit journalism. And how do we do that? By having a diverse revenue model. I am somebody that has been at the table seeking diverse revenue sources from public and private philanthropy, from individuals who support our mission and who believe in what we are doing. I will bring that same expertise and those same relationships to NABJ, as we should be. We cannot be dependent on these media companies that we frankly need to be holding accountable in this moment. That is not how we remain sustainable for our next 50 years. Yes, we continue to be in relationship with our friends that want to still be in relationship with us, but we have to find other sources of revenue. I'm already doing that at the 19th. I will do that for our organization. And frankly, I think that we are literally looking at a missed opportunity as we speak. When I am the next president of this organization, I will kick off the capital campaign for our next 50 years that should be underway, frankly, right now. We should be capitalizing on the story that we have to tell about who we have been and who we can be. And that presents an opportunity for new revenue. I'm also thinking about what it would look like to have a speakers bureau, harnessing the thought leadership of our members, as a potential money-making opportunity. So there are opportunities on the table. There are resources that we can tap, and we can tap the talent and expertise of this organization in a new way headed into our next 50 years.
Thank you, Aaron. And I have one more question for the presidential candidates, and we'll start back with you again. Will you continue the long tradition of inviting presidential candidates from both parties, as well as the city administration, to speak to face questions at NABJ conventions? And how would you approach those matters?
So I do think that it is important to invite presidential candidates to the convention. That is something that we have done in our 50-year history. We have certainly had some newsmakers that have come as presidential candidates to our convention. That is something that happened at our last convention in Chicago, obviously. And there was controversy, frankly, over that last convention with, then candidate Donald Trump who came to our convention, and frankly, that was it was a misstep in how that was executed. Did I think it was a mistake to invite him? No. Do I think, it could have been handled differently? The format could have been different? Absolutely. But I also think that what should have happened is that the Democratic nominee for president, Vice President Kamala Harris, should have also had a chance to address our membership, albeit she could not make it in person, but having her there, even in a virtual capacity. I mean, here we are post-pandemic, we're in a Zoom forum right now. I feel like it's important for me to be able to address the membership in this setting. It would have been important, I think, for the vice president then to address the members in real time, to respond in real time, frankly, to what her opponent had to say about her at our convention, and for our members who deserve access to these candidates to do that. Now, as people who are sitting president, do I think that those people should be at our convention? Not necessarily, but would I absolutely advocate for our members to go to the White House and and have a chance to hold them accountable and ask questions on behalf, not only of our membership, but on behalf of the millions of Americans who we do this job for and who we bear witness on behalf of? Absolutely. That seems like something that is important and that should be something that we are advocating for on behalf of our members. So, I think our relationship in terms of holding people accountable and holding power to account, we should absolutely do that. But we need to rethink what that relationship looks like, and we need to learn from the mistakes of the past.
Thank you very much for your answer. Ken?
Yeah, I agree with Aaron. We should do that. And the reason we should do that is for exactly what happened last year, right? We got an idea, we got an opportunity to see exactly what it looks like when you, as a group of Black journalists, say, come to our house, meet with our people, answer our questions, answer a litany of questions that impact Black America. Something we didn't get to see anywhere else. And what we got out of that is one of the most influential interviews of the entire election cycle, one that went global and one that had a huge impact even on the candidates' ratings from Sunday until Thursday. Am I in favor of inviting back every time the president? No, I'm not in favor of inviting back every time the president, because we see who's in the office right now. We understand what this individual is doing, but also because we have done this over and over again, and once those individuals become president, they do not come back to us. We should offer the opportunity, but we shouldn't always just automatically ask that question. And some of the things that we can do is look at how we begin to work through that process. I'm proud to say that last year, for the first time ever in NABJ, we had both the Democrat and Republican presidential nominee answer questions from NABJ. And I'm happy to say that the Kamala Harris campaign, who wanted to make it virtually there, couldn't make it, but they held true to the promise to make sure that they come and sit down with us. And I believe we have such value and such strong talent and voices in NABJ that we can handle that moment, and we showed we can handle that moment in both occasions last year.
Yeah, so I'll take that. Yeah, listen, I had no problem with the inviting both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris to the convention. I think that's absolutely what should have been done. What was wrong with what happened was the way it was handled. The president and the executive director, without the influence of the board and without feedback from the board, their own executive board, invited Donald Trump to our convention without feedback from members, folks like Yamiche Alcindor, who has been on the opposite end or on the receiving end of some of President Trump's most disrespectful comments, wasn't consulted. And so, of course, she was outraged and she was upset, and she came and she spoke out about that. We have other members who have been personally disrespected by Donald Trump, and we should have consulted with them. And there should have been a consultation with the entire executive board and truly the board of directors. And we could have heard from folks, and we could have had a session to talk about, well, here's how to handle it. Here's why we need fact checking live in the room where this is happening. Here's the format we need to set up. Here's why someone who's not an NABJ member shouldn't be allowed to moderate this conversation when we've said that only NABJ members can moderate other panels. These are all things that could have been accomplished by bringing in and having different voices in the room. And that's why transparency is going to be a hallmark of my administration as president. We are going to talk to members about what convention city we should have, or what city we should have the convention in. We're going to talk to members about how we should be spending money, about what programs we're going to be bringing on. We're not just going to keep members in the dark and do everything in a back room and then announce it to y'all when we announce everything to the public. That's the way of the old, and we need to get out of that. NABJ leadership for everyone is what my campaign is all about. And that starts with things like who we invite to our conventions and how we conduct them.
All right. And just to follow the rules as well, Ken, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond to criticisms that were both from Aaron and Dion as far as how last year's events was handled. Just give you 30 seconds before you move on.
I appreciate this. This wasn't a president and executive director directive. As a matter of fact, we began talking with a group of individuals working towards the organization of the convention in plenary back in January and began working towards getting the candidates to come there, even when it was Joe Biden at that point. And so this wasn't an individual decision amongst a couple of people. Now, one of the things that I was told is that these things come down to the wire, and it actually did with both cases, with both Trump and with Harris later. It was within just a couple of days with Trump, and it was just less than 2 weeks with Harris. Thank you.
All right.
I'd just like to point out that the vice president of digital said that none of the executive board was told about this.
All right. We will move on to the next group. We'll move on to the vice presidents of broadcast. The vice president of broadcast is one of 3 deputy executive officers and serves in the president's place in their absence. Vice presidents also serve as coordinators for committees and perform duties assigned by the president. We'll start here first with Walter. How are new technologies like artificial intelligence impacting newsrooms, and what can NABJ do to prepare journalists, whether producers or on-screen talent, for the new reporting methods and to keep their jobs?
So AI is impacting our newsrooms, and I think there's a lot of fear within our membership and with the journalists about AI replacing us. And so what we need to do is to train our members to learn how to use AI within our reporting and to partner with companies that can train us with that. That's why we partner with groups like Microsoft, that we have partnerships like Google that can help us with that. That's the reason why we have an innovation bubble. So we need to be able to train our members to be able to use AI and to not fear it. Something that maybe we need to lean into a little bit more to learn how that we can utilize it in our reporting. And that's something that I've been doing by having these trainings that are emerging in Investigative Journalist Summit. And what we also will be doing coming up at convention, what I've been helping plan that with the investigative track as well.
Thank you for that. And Raylan?
Hi. Well, let's just be honest. AI is already in our newsrooms. It's certainly in mine. We are getting transcripts of everything that the president does, and our White House unit are using some version of AI. So yes, we already are trained on that. And I do believe in continuing to outfit our newsrooms in all of the technology that's coming. And it's beyond AI, right? There are a lot of other new additions into iNews and to all of the things that we use to get our jobs done every single day. But what's really important is demystifying all this fear around technology and empowering ourselves so that we are understanding these things. And as VP of broadcast, I want to bring you in on the ground level. So you go into your newsroom and you're already prepared so that when someone 3 steps above you or ahead of you, or a big project manager says, hey, I'm thinking of rolling out this thing, you already know what that thing is. And you become more valuable for yourself and for your employer. And that's really important to me. Like, I know change is very scary, but we have to embrace it because that is the future of journalism. It is how this organization will live another 50 years, in being able to really wrap our minds around this technology. And I'm here to help you and support you because I'm living it, I'm doing it. I'm currently in a spinoff, and in 3 months, I'll be in a whole new building with a whole bunch of new technology. And I want to come to NABJ and walk you through this process and hold your hand through it right now.
Thank you very much. And we'll stick with you on this next question as well. Board members should be comfortable with fundraising. So what skills do you have, and how would you approach fundraising for the organization?
Listen, my brother is a pastor. You got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to tithe. You got to do all the things that you need to do. And I know I have not had a traditional background at NABJ, but I will tell you something. In the places where I may not have been, I have sent hundreds of employees on my budget to NABJ, and I will continue to do so. I have a list of all the people who I am sending to all of the conventions because it is all important for all of us to have. I've worked with board lead. I'm currently under a couple of reviews to get on some board positions. I also manage nearly 140 employees, nearly 12 anchors. I know about multi-million-dollar budgets every single week, how to keep our business afloat and the newsroom going. What story do we need to greenlight? What story is that not able to do at this moment? What do I need to partner with? What organization do I need to partnership in order to help fund this thing? We did this project with Rachel Maddow and Tremaine Lee on racial healing 2 years ago in New Orleans. And we were able to do that because we brought together a couple of organizations organizations with a news budget and an organization budget. So we have to fundraise. I am one of those people, if you ask me for $1, I will give you two, right? Because NABJ and the people who have been in my life have supported me to earn this salary. What can I do but give back? I come from parents who are undereducated, underfunded. My father went to a segregated high school. I am overwhelmed by my blessings. All I know what to do with that is to give back. And I know how to organize and fundraise. I work closely with Reverend Al Sharpton. So I have a lot of tools that I can bring to this organization about how to monetize what we are doing as an industry and as an organization and keep us afloat for the next 50 years.
Thank you for that. Walter?
Fundraising is what I did for 3 years as your national treasurer. When I ran for treasurer back in 2020, it was the pandemic. Folks said, "Are you crazy? We're going to go through a pandemic. We're going to lose money." My first year as treasurer, we had a $1.6 million surplus. My second year as treasurer, we had a $1.7 million surplus. So that's what I do. I've created opportunities and new revenue streams. The new task forces have come and have said, "Hey, we don't have any money. We're not making money." I created a revenue stream, a year-round revenue stream for our Young Journalist Task Force by creating the NABJ online store so people can go get their swag and get their gear. It may sound small, but for the Young Journalist Task Force, it's huge. It allows them to have receptions, it allows them to have trainings, it allows them to have the Emerging and Investigative Journalist Summit as well. So fundraising is something I do. I've also looked at companies that maybe we don't traditionally partner with, right? So like our Health and Science Task Force, they partnered with 23andMe last year. I went out and got that relationship and made that happen because they wanted to have funding, to have programmings, to have receptions, to have meet and greet. So that's something that I've been doing and something that I will continue to do if I'm reelected to a second term.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on now next to Region 1 Director. Region 1 Director supervises and directs chapters, including 10 professional and 19 student chapters. This includes 14 states along the East Coast from Vermont to Virginia. So first, we'll start with Eric. What relationships do you have with chapters across the region, and how will you engage them, especially the needs of presidents and small chapters?
Thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you for the question. So for me, I'm big on networking. I've reached out to every president in our chapter, and I've also been connecting with the students in our region. So how I'm going to go about this, I'm going to continue to reach out. Obviously, I'm going to plan events, as I mentioned, for every student chapter in our region. I think that's the most important thing, is supporting them. And how does that look? Finding alumni, leveraging your resources in your network to give back to the students. So I'm going to continue to meet with them, continue to support them. And I'm a big road tripper from my younger days in my fraternity. So I love going up the East Coast. So I'm going to go and spend time in each area. I want to see people face to face and connect with them. So I'm excited to represent all of these chapters. I'm excited to go to their events, go to multiple cities and just check in on people face to face, attend their in-person chapter meetings. And that's what I plan to do.
Thank you very much. Melody, you have the floor.
Sure. So when I was appointed to this position, the first thing I did was reach out to every chapter president, student chapters and advisors, to talk to them about what has been happening in their chapter. I had to update all the list. So that was the first thing. The second thing was I created bi-monthly meetings with all the chapter presidents so that we can get together and I can let them know what's happening on NABJ's side, and they can let me know what's happening in their chapters, but also to create a support system for each other. The third thing I did was I meet with the student chapters and their advisors quarterly. I also am a member of the New York chapter and the Philadelphia chapter. I go to their events. I'm very active. And whenever I'm in Philadelphia, I usually check in with that chapter. Also, I'm a voice for each of these chapters. DC being the largest chapter, down to like the mighty like Rochester. They each have different issues. So I'm available as their advocate to listen and give them advice. And each of them feels like they have equal time with me and they have a voice on this board.
Thank you very much. And for the second question, we'll stick with you first, Melanie. On college campuses, some journalism programs are kind of at threat. That some have been cut or reduced in power. And this means that journalism students at these campuses will be impacted, as well as our chapters. So what type of support do student chapters need in this organization? And there's also one common question we receive from them is students believe that they should be able to vote in elections, despite having because they pay dues to be part of the organization. So what do you say to students who feel they want the right to vote, and what type of support do you think they need from the organization today?
So I'm not opposed to students voting. They should have a voice in the future of this organization. Secondly, I understand what's going on some of these campuses, which is why I also want to create a pipeline between the professional chapters and the student chapters in certain states so that they have support, that they can go to chapter meetings and get the networking or get the career building that they need. And also the support. It's different having someone in your city who can come and help you out, or who you can go to, or you can call up and meet for coffee to give you advice. And I think that we need to support the student chapters more. There's no reason why they shouldn't also be members of some of the professional chapters as well. We should be able to facilitate that.
Thank you. And Eric, same for you.
Yes, with the cuts to DEI, I've had the opportunity to speak with students. A lot of them are worried about funding and support for their chapters. So first is going to start with fundraising. We need to support these chapters by making sure they have the funds needed to activate and have awesome events. So I'm going to fundraise and tailor it to each region, or I'm sorry, to each chapter. What may work in one state or at one university may not work at another, but I'm going to be active and proactive in finding a great way to fundraise for each student chapter. And then I've mentioned this multiple times, but it's important to get notable alumni from NABJ to come back and help out those students. As all you know, it's an NABJ family. So who better to look out for the people who graduated from these universities? So whether it's LinkedIn, I've been texting people, hey, I know you went here. I have this student who needs guidance. I have this student who needs advice. I have this student who went through something similar. But I'm going to do that for every chapter. I think it's important. One, fundraise. One, connect them with the notable alumni or just someone who understands what they're going through. And I think that's going to be the most important thing. And then just making sure you're there to provide whatever they're in need of. It may not be funding, it may be support, it may be more events, it may be virtual events, it may be funding in order to go to the regional convention or the national convention. Now, I've already started planning and looking for sponsors and ways to have more students attend our regional conference as well as our national conference. Every student can't be part of the student project. So how can I help students make it to these conferences? And I'm excited that I've been able to find different grants. And last year, several people were able to receive grants outside of NABJ to attend the convention. And I'm doing that now. What other avenues can I provide so you can attend the convention?
Thank you very much. And I'll return back to the presidential candidates for these next two questions. And we'll start this time with Ken. Do you see NABJ again engaging with other journalism organizations, such as the National Association of Hispanic Journalists and Asian American Journalists Association, for future meetings or conferences?
So for future meetings, yeah. And I can tell you at the very beginning of the administration, we had a meeting not only with Asian journalists, indigenous journalists, women in journalism, and other affinity groups. Part of that meeting was to make sure that we, one, share exactly what we're doing and make sure that we're giving best practices with one another. In addition to that, when things began to get real heated, we began to meet again with the administration coming out of DC. We began to meet again. One of the pieces of advice that I got in talking with individuals from Press Freedom and getting an opportunity to talk to a former FCC chair is understanding that coalitions is a great way to echo those voices. And so NABJ stands up and speaks out strongly when we can individually, but also we're looking to build those coalitions. So it's not just them, but it's also other journalism groups and organizations that we can work with. Proud that we stood up with 52 different journalism organizations, many of them who don't mesh well at all together, and pronounced that journalism is a function of democracy and government interference can't continue. Yes, we do need to work on partnerships again. We do need to learn from each other, and we do need to stand up and fight together. That's our best way forward, because if we don't stand together, then we can fall individually.
Thank you very much for your response. We'll move on next to Dion.
So I think Ken's answer there was interesting and it's telling, because clearly what the membership wants is for us to engage with and be partners with these other organizations. Do y'all remember Unity? This is when all the journalism organizations used to come together. AAJA, NAHJ, NABJ, what was then NAJA, the Native American Journalists Association. Well, I've spoken with NAHJ Executive Director Yaneth Guillen-Diaz, and I've talked about here's how we bring the organizations back together. We're already talking about putting together an ad hoc committee to study the ways that NABJ and NAHJ can come together again. I've spoken with leaders at IJA, the Indigenous Journalists Association, and the National Lesbian Gay Journalists Association as well, to see how we can come together, because in this time, we are all under attack. And we need to be stepping out together, figuring out ways that we work together where our agendas are aligned and places where our agendas are different, so that we understand here are the things that we need to work together on and here are the things that we can't. But let's be frank and let's be honest. Folks have talked about, oh, the revenue wasn't there, the money wasn't right. We make more money when we come together with other journalism organizations at our conventions than we do alone. We take home a bigger split when we work with these other journalism organizations. And so at the end of the day, it's all about petty infighting and small-mindedness. And folks thinking that NABJ needs to be this, NABJ needs to that. What I'm about is what the members want and what the members need. And that's more cooperation, more working together, more opportunities. Again, the sponsors love it too. So that means we can bring more sponsors. Folks can work with more mentors. They have more opportunities to gather and to grow. And so again, I've already started these discussions about how we get back together, how we get NABJ back to cooperating and working with these other organizations so that we can provide great programming for our members, because that's what it's all about. That's what NABJ has lost sight of, and that's what under my presidency we will again do and move forward for our members.
Thank you very much for that response, Aaron.
So I absolutely believe that there's strength in numbers, and we need that strength right now. We know the moment that we are in our profession. We know the moment that we are in, as Black Americans. We need to connect with our partners. And yes, that is absolutely NAHJ. That is AAJA. That is the Native American Journalists. That is NLGJA. That is also ONA. That is the Society of Professional Journalists. That is, I have helped to start one of the most diverse newsrooms in the country. We were intentional about that. Our members are already in community, in relationship with each other. Why don't we come back together so that we can be stronger together? It matters. And by the way, like I said, it's not just journalism and the truth that are under attack. It is Black America that is under attack. So what does it mean to also be in relationship with other advocacy organizations, locking arms? When journalism is under attack, what does it mean for the NAACP to also amplify that message? What does it mean for the Legal Defense Fund to be helping our Black journalists? I'm in relationship with these people. These people know who I am. I have the reputation and the relationship to get results and to make sure that we are relevant and resilient together. That is what we have to do in this moment. This moment demands no less of NABJ, but we have, looking ahead to our next 50 years, an opportunity not just to reset, but to establish new relationships that we have not had before.
Thank you very much. And I'll take this question from the audience. What is NABJ's protocol when it comes to dealing with allegations of sexual harassment or sexual assault in the organization, and even bullying? And what are some steps that NABJ could do to improve how to respond to these very sensitive matters, make members feel safe?
Well, the first thing we need to do is just make sure those individuals who are facing those things are seen. I've had the opportunity most recently to speak with one of those members and have a very candid conversation about what they're facing. NABJ Code of Conduct lays out a policy and a procedure as to what happens when we have situations like this. It includes, and it goes right up to, losing membership. It is important that each and every one of our members not only understands exactly what that code of conduct looks like, and you had to check that code of conduct when you signed up to attend the national convention, but it's also important that they know exactly what to do in those next steps. It is understanding how it exists, understanding how it works for you, understanding who to go to when you have a problem, and then it's NABJ stepping up and stepping into that. Look, I have one of the individuals who is here on this call who came up with a phenomenal idea, and I love it, and I wish it was in time for us to get in the national convention, but we have to make that a webinar, and that is talking to our members about exactly what that protocol looks like, about what you should do in that situation, because you feel helpless, you feel perilous, and it is painful. but you can be empowered. And we need to be the source to provide that information. And I believe that we're going to have a webinar that does just that for individuals who are facing those issues. And NABJ stands up and works with them and makes sure that they're comforted, that they're cared for, that they are seen, and that we find justice when necessary within the rules that we set forward.
Thank you. And I'll leave it up to Aaron or Deanna to respond first.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I would say to that is I am certainly, as somebody who has never missed a convention and has been a 25-year member of this organization, I only recently became aware of NABJ's code of conduct when I saw it posted on Instagram. I'm glad to know that we have one, but this is something that I think absolutely should be something that is required of people to sign as they are signing up to attend our convention, that you will adhere to this code of conduct and that there will be consequences for you if you do not adhere to this code of conduct. I wish too that there could be a webinar ahead of this convention, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a national conversation. And I pledge to you all right now that we will have a conversation as an NABJ family that I am happy to lead for folks, and I will be, following up with folks who want to participate in that conversation in the coming days, because this is something that we know that our members are concerned about, that they're talking about. We want you to feel safe coming to the convention. I certainly want you to feel safe coming to the convention, and as a member of our beloved organization, no matter how you are interacting with NABJ, we certainly want to emphasize that this is an organization that believes that every single member should be safe, should be respected, and should be empowered.
Yeah, so I agree with everything both Ken and Aaron said, and I think the difference in my response is going to be that it comes down to accountability. It comes down to enforcing consequences. It comes down to when folks have been found to be sexually assaulting other folks in NABJ, when folks are found to be sexually harassing other members of NABJ, we need to enforce consequences. And that means anything as much as kicking folks out of the organization. NABJ cannot be an organization that stands for sexual assault, sexual harassment, or disrespect of Black women in any way, period. And under my presidency, again, we're going to make sure that that's enforced. So it's not just about talking. It's not just about webinars. Yeah, we absolutely need to make sure that folks know the rules and know about the code of conduct. Aaron's right. These things that are our code of conduct haven't been presented in a way that everybody knows what they are, that everybody understands, here are the rules, and that you're accountable for. But we also have not done a good job of holding people accountable to that code of conduct and making sure that we enforce consequences. So again, folks think that when they see, when they hear that there are people who've done these things, are running around at NABJ conventions, acting like nothing happened. That needs to stop. We need to enforce these things and make sure that women feel comfortable and feel confident and feel safe at our events, and understand that NABJ is a resource for them. And so that means putting a stop in a zero tolerance policy to any sort of sexual assault, sexual violence, or any kind of disrespect. Under my presidency, there will be real enforcement, real accountability, real consequences when our members do these things. And again, that's what it's all about. It's all about showing, not telling. It's not about making sure that folks hear you. It's about seeing, hey, this is how NABJ reacted when someone did these things and they were found to be guilty of those things. This is how NABJ responded when Black women were mistreated. And that's what we've got to do. And that's what we're going to start doing under my administration.
And Tyler, I just want to add, women are not the only people that can be victims of sexual violence, misconduct, or harassment.
All right, thank you so much. I was actually going
Aaron, I'm sorry, Aaron, that's a great point. I appreciate you pointing that out. I stand by that and I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And I think that conversation should be held amongst both sexes as well as amongst all sexualities and whatnot too. So there's definitely not enough time to cover it here, but I'm at least happy that everyone's acknowledging that issues need to be addressed in the world for sure. All right, we'll move on next back to the VP of broadcast candidates. This is a question that's come from some members in the chats. So NABJ has a tendency to promote reporters at the convention, and oftentimes people behind the scenes don't feel as if they're seen. Also, you have people who are audio journalists and podcasters who hope to be given more, opportunities in the broadcast space and events and whatnot. So what can you do to address people's concerns in that area?
I'm happy to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Walter. Okay.
Ladies first, Raylan, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Walter. So sweet. I appreciate that. So what we're doing right now is I feel really strong about everyone working in a very democratic newsroom, right? I am only successful if all of my colleagues are successful. And specifically, when you talk about people who are doing podcasts, right now we're doing a thing where we're learning and we have metrics that show us that there are projects that we do on broadcast or on audio that we then turn into broadcast. Like right now, we have a project that is like #2 on Apple, and we've turned that into an episode that's going to be on TV, right? We cannot shut out all of the tentacles of broadcasts that are bringing in way more money than traditional streaming and what we do. We can't shut those out. Like podcasters and everyone, they are all play a big part in telling our story in the fabrics. So many people, Anthony Hilton, who's an Emmy winner, Tremaine Lee, who I have executive produced. They come from projects that are not TV central or focused or traditional. There are so many ways to do the jobs that we do, and I think it's really important to realize that we are all of our voices matter, right? You're not more important because you're on air. You cannot be a very good on air person if you don't have an excellent producer, someone in the control room, a TPM, the tech manager, the security guy who got you up in here. Every voice matters, and for me that's really important. And all I want to do is amplify those. I collaborate with people across the stream, the network, everywhere, every single day. And everyone has value. And so what I want to do in this organization is to remind people that you have the right to vote. You have additional candidates. This is all important, and every voice matters. And really, most importantly, that I can't lead anyone on a one size fits all. Everything that we do matters, and everything that you do matters. And I want to help you show up into the newsroom in with everything that is your best thing that you do to be the best version of yourself.
Well, what I
Thank you very
would
much, Walter.
I would use my real life experience to convince our members to think outside of the box when it comes to broadcasting. I was a TV on-air reporter. I started in Elmira, New York, making $20,000 a year. I was in Flint, Michigan, covering the Flint water crisis, Kalamazoo. I was in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, during the great, resignation, everybody, I had a moment. I was like, you know what? People have been saying you should be a producer, you should be a manager. So I left local TV and I went to an NPR PBS affiliate. I started the Accountability Project at Connecticut Public Broadcasting, where we did audio long form reports, where we did podcasts. We did a podcast on Barney because Barney was founded at Connecticut Public. I'm now the executive producer of investigations at CBS News New York. My dream was always to have that SIG out in New York City because this is my hometown. But now I get to guide the coverage of investigations in New York City, my hometown, and Lord knows we need the investigating. So I would use that to convince members to think of other jobs outside of just being on camera, to look at podcasting. We have members who write for digital outlets and then they're hosting podcasts as well. So that's something that we need to do. We've also had members who have come forward and say, we need an audio or podcasting task force. And that is something that I would champion because we need to train our members. You might notice at convention, Think Public Media. It's a consortium of NPR stations across the country who come to NABJ, and they also sponsored a breakfast a few years ago because they know our power. They want to train us. They want us at our stations. When I was at the NPR station in Connecticut, I led a majority minority investigative unit. Right? That is something that I was very passionate about, making sure that our voices were heard in Connecticut and beyond. So that is something I would do. I'll use my real life experience to train our members and to say, there is more than just being on TV, right? There is so much more. You can be a producer. You can be in management. You can do audio. So that's what I would do. Tyler, you need some audio training because you're on mute. So I'm gonna train you.
You got me. You got me there.
Okay.
All right, appreciate it there. All right. This is another question I'll propose for you two, for VP of Broadcast. How are you addressing, or how can you address massive layoffs that have been happening across the industry, whether it's at the network level or at local TV news level? So what's your approach to thinking about that? We'll start with you this time, Walter.
I think we need to prepare for them, right? We cannot prevent them. We can advocate that they don't happen, but we have to prepare for them. That means cross-training our members. And again, that's why I said at the top that we can't just think about ourselves as broadcast journalists, right? We can't think of ourselves as just digital journalists. We need to know that the skills that we use can be transferable to other places. That's why when I left local TV and went to audio, I was like, oh, it can't be that too hard. It's like TV without the pictures. Well, there's specificities with audio. So we need to make sure that we are doing that.
Thank you. Layla?
Yes, we are coming on hard times, but I think that most importantly, I want to be able to train you to have this skill set that you're in this for the long haul, right? I'm in this, I'm sandwiched. I'm sandwiched between an 11-year-old and an 83-year-old, and I know how much I have left on my mortgage, so I feel for all of you trying to make it through the rest of this industry, okay? I want to make it to the next end. So I think that we have to be prepared for what's coming down the pike. And because I'm in these rooms currently as a manager of 48 hours of coverage and lots of times during the week as well, I know what's coming down the pike. And it's about making news partnerships and finding new revenue in sources so that we are able to stay on the air, contribute, speak truth to power, be able to be journalists. This is still a very mighty and important and profound profession. But I also want to train you so that Donald Trump doesn't have his eyes on the tweet that you wrote, or that you know what happens if you get arrested and something happens to you. You can't do your job and hold on to your job if you don't have the tools that you need. And I want to provide that to you. And in addition to that, we need to continue to have pipelines for people. I might not have something, but in fact, I do. I can tell you that in a couple of weeks, there's 100 jobs being posted that I have a connection to. And anyone here in this network or out of this network, you can always reach out to me and go for me, and I will absolutely connect you because our currency of ideas is each other, and we have to keep promoting each other and doing that. Whether you're formally in an organization or not, I'm always going to be a part of that. But we need to train ourselves to do less with more because that is the reality of our business. And what we are doing, we need to be able to always present to our bosses and our peers that we are helping to monetize and why this is a plus for them and a plus for us. Because honestly, I want to make it 20 more years. I want to make it 50 more years for my child, for my mother, for everyone here. I am in it.
10 seconds.
Thank you so much. And we'll move on to the last question for the Regional 1 director candidates. I'll just keep it to one here in the interest of time so we can move along and make sure we end at 9:30 for everyone. What are some issues that are unique to the Regional 1? And what are some ways that you hope to address those unique issues? Either one can take the floor first.
Alrighty. So Region 1, I think something that's unique to our region is that we're spaced out, but then also the size of our chapters. So you have, I would say, the DC chapter, New York chapter are big chapters, and then you have several small yet mighty chapters, including NABJ, Rochester, Pittsburgh. So just giving opportunities for the big chapters as well as the smaller chapters. I think the bigger chapters, they have more members, and then that helps them out, whereas the smaller chapters, you're limited in resources, you're limited in members, but still having the opportunity to put on high-end events. And being the president of a small chapter, I know exactly what we need to succeed. And in my position, I've been able to go out and reach out to companies, reach out to ESPN. Obviously, I work there, but I'm excited that in 2 weeks, we're going to have an event with ESPN to recruit ahead of the convention. And doing that for all the chapters and doing that for our entire region. Some people can't or don't have a big powerhouse in their area, but still having a virtual event to allow people to get in front of these recruiters ahead of the convention. I'm already in talks with NBC and other companies. I want to do that as Region 1 director. So whether you're a small chapter or a big chapter, the Region 1 director can still support you. And I promise that I'm going to support, whether you're big or small, I'm going to support that chapter and I'm going to do the work.
Yes.
Ellen?
So yeah, Region 1 is the largest region. It is, it expands from Vermont to Virginia. And each chapter has its own things and own issues. So yes, DC is the largest chapter, and one of their issues is they feel like they need more grant money, and that the grant money that NABJ gives them is not enough to support their large chapter. There are smaller chapters. Their issue is retaining membership because they're just kind of like a step up region where reporters come for 2 years and they leave. The one thing that I've heard from when I've talked to them is that they want more training and they want more job opportunities. And that's what we did at Region 1. We had 10 companies there, from the Wall Street Journal to the New York Times to NBC to CBS, and there were lines all day at these job fairs. The other thing we did was we had training, whether it was investigative journalism, podcasting, AI. There were at least 150 people in the AI training. That is what people are really interested in learning about. So just keep providing opportunities for them, but also money. I was able to raise $20,000 from the regional conference that I plan to put back into Region 1, especially the DC chapter, because they were the host chapter and they helped out a lot for that conference.
Thank you very much. And we'll move into a little bit lighter session of today's forum. And this question will be open to everyone, and anyone can answer when they're ready. So what has been your favorite NABJ convention to date, and tell me why?
My first my favorite NABJ convention today was actually my first NABJ convention, which was in Tampa in 2009. I had just gotten an NABJ scholarship to work at 30 Rock as a news fellow, and the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism, where I was going to school, said, "Hey, we're going to take you to NABJ." It was something really, truly I had really never heard of, and so when I walked in that convention floor and I saw so many people that looked like me doing what I wanted to do and was being inspired, and that was my favorite convention. And I want other people to have that feeling, and I want us to continue to have that feeling, that have family reunion feeling, to have that training feeling as well, and walk away from our conventions with learning something and feeling and having our spirits, like, just reinvigorated. So again, my first convention, that was my favorite one.
I gotta say, I agree. You never forget your first. My first convention was 2000. I was at the Atlanta Daily World, a Black newspaper in Atlanta, and it was my first job in journalism. And the publisher of the Atlanta Daily World, Alexis Scott, brought me to the convention. I came to the convention, and I was new in journalism. I was still in college, actually, when I was working at the Daily World. And Alexis introduced me to Paul Delaney, one of our founders, and told me that Paul had also worked at the Daily World. And Paul went on to become a pioneering editor at the New York Times. And Paul met me at this convention, and he put his arm on his hand on my shoulder and said, "You can do it. Keep going." That meant everything to me as a young journalist who wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it in this industry. And so, Paul, for that to be my introduction, not just to journalism, but to be reminded that our stories matter, and to be reminded that I had everything that I needed to do what I needed to do in this industry, everything came from that convention. The jobs that I got, the relationships that I made. I have friends that I made at that convention that are still friends of mine to this day. People that I met at that convention ended up hiring me. I referred other people to jobs. I've been mentored by people and mentored other people. All of that flowed from that first convention. And so I will never forget that experience of just being wide-eyed and with my fellow chapter members in AABJ, and being introduced around and feeling like I knew that I was home and I knew that I was with family. I want
Yeah,
that.
I'll
I should
keep
say
that.
my first convention,
Okay.
before I saw Black Panther, or after I saw Black Panther, somebody told me, "Man, Wakanda is amazing." And I said, "I feel like I've seen Wakanda." My first NABJ, to be surrounded by so many professional Black people doing great things and everybody wanting to share and give back. I had so many connections that I made from individuals just standing in line waiting for a chance to see Anthony Anderson, or just being around the lounge and being around other individuals who have some of the same goals. And it really not only lifts you up, but it really kind of pushes you out there to be able to say, "I made a connection with somebody in this city, in that city. And guess what? They're doing wonderful things, and they think I'm doing great things." And we have an opportunity to support each other. In addition to that, we have a voice. We have a group. We have an organization that will stand up and fight for us and fight like hell for us to make sure we're treated fairly. Just understanding that these things exist out there made me feel like I was in Wakanda years before I ever got that opportunity. And so when I had a chance to do a video just trying to encourage more people to become members, that was the first thing that I thought back. We do exist. There are professionals out here. There are people who are doing phenomenal things in great spaces, in big cities and small cities all over the world. And they're willing to share, they're willing to give, they're willing to pour into you. And I was fortunate this weekend to spend some time with some mentees to do the exact same thing for them that people did for me at my first convention in New Orleans.
Yeah, I love that. I love Wakanda. I'm gonna go keep it going with my first convention was NABJ 2008. It was actually Unity. And coming there and seeing all of those folks together, Hispanic journalists, Asian journalists, Native American, but also was seeing Black folks in the front, right? Because NABJ, we were the largest there, and we were stepping out in front, and we were leading with action. And so it was beautiful to see all these folks coming together, and then Black folks really at the forefront. But it also taught me a lot of lessons because I was broke. Back in those days, I know that NABJ convention hurt my pockets. And that's why I'm passionate about lowering registration costs for our emerging journalists so that more of them can attend, so that we can grow this organization. And I'm passionate about cutting hotel costs because I know that hotel bill put in my pocket when I first had to pay for my NABJ convention. We can lower hotel costs by 50%. Right. And that's what I'm planning to do. I also remember that convention for all the mentors that I made and all the conventions and all the different people that I was able to meet at the job fair. The job fair was packed with folks trying and vying for our attention. We can have that back. We need to start diversifying our sponsor base, not just old world media companies. We need to start getting tech companies there. We need to start getting financial companies there, philanthropic companies there. These companies want to be talking to our members because we are the largest journalism organization in the US. They're at ONA. They're at ISOJ, they're at KMF, they're at all these other conventions, and they're not at NABJ because we aren't reaching out to them. We can have those old job fairs back. We can have those feelings back. It just takes leadership and a new direction in terms of cooperation and growth.
I'll hop in.
Quick thing for the last three candidates, we're going to get their parts. Just keep it quick to about a minute if you can, because I want to make sure we get to our closing statements at 9:20 so we can get things going. So don't want to limit you, but just for the interest of time. Thanks.
Time on right now. Thank you. For me, it was the Washington, D.C. Convention 2016. I mentioned this earlier, but I went there with a dollar and a dream. Dion mentioned he was broke. I was broke. I didn't know how I was going to be able to register. I stepped out on faith. I said, I'm going to put my best suit on, shirt and tie, and I'm going to go to this convention. I'm going to get a job. And I was able to connect with ESPN, and I'm going to take it all the way back, but I felt like I received the Willy Wonka golden ticket. I met with ESPN. They invited me to their candidate reception, and I was like, this is what I came for. I almost cried. I was like, I'm broke and we about to go to this steakhouse and eat good and I have an opportunity to get hired. And I went to that candidate reception and I was able, just before Zoom, I was able to be flown up to Connecticut for an interview and the rest was history. I've been with ESPN for coming on 9 years. So NABJ has changed my life. And I know that feeling of being broke and hoping for opportunity. And I'm glad that NABJ gives our emerging journalists, our seasoned journalists, our student journalists that opportunity to get hired when you come to our convention. And I'm very passionate about finding ways for you to get all expenses paid to attend. Several of my mentees this year and last year are attending all expenses paid because I know that feeling not having enough money, but still wanting to go. And I offer my room every year to someone. I say, hey, I'm getting 2 bids. Who needs it? And it's always someone who hops in. But thank you. I love NABJ.
Any more?
I'll go
go ahead.
next.
Yep.
My favorite NAB convention was also my first NAB convention. It wasn't this last time we were in Vegas. It was a long time ago, maybe 2006-ish. I too, a baby journo. I shared a room with 3 other girls. It was Vegas. I don't think we slept, but I definitely made a lot of friends. And I was the first time I was able to get constructive criticism and feedback on my tape, which helped me go on to be an audio journalist and helps create the career that I have now at the Wall Street Journal.
Thank you. And did we get through everyone? Or ratings you go? We got through everybody? All right, great.
Well, you can, I'm all for time. I'm a producer, so when I hear that little rap cue, I hear it. So let's keep it going. But I too am with Dion and Unity in Chicago. There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna take a chance to tell mine as well. My first NABJ conference was New Orleans, 2017. Y'all might remember that's when Omarosa and Ed Gordon got into a little big old thing. That's when the Trump admin got invited as well. But yeah, that was an eye-opening experience for me. My experience in New Orleans is what made me want to be super involved. In NABJ. It's led me to all the different committees that I've worked on. A lot of mentors I've met and people who guided the way for me. I follow the steps, a lot of good footsteps. So I'm trying to make sure I leave those footsteps behind for the people behind me too. So I thank you all for being here to help, help with this discussion about where we're going next. So we'll lead now into the closing statements from candidates. We'll start with the Region 1 directors for candidates first. We'll start with Eric, and then we'll go to Melanie. So Eric, with your closing statement.
Certainly. Investing in our future means consistently showing up for students and seasoned journalists year long. One of my focus areas are going to be uplifting students and young professionals. We must continue to uplift, empower, and invest in the next generation because when they win, NABJ wins. Activating our region. Our region deserves more than just a conference. We need to stay actively engaged throughout the year, and I promise to make sure we stay that way. And then also collaborating with purpose. Collaboration should not be limited to check-ins or one-time meetings, but we need to get together, have virtual events, have in-person events to make sure our region is strong. We are stronger when we move as one. And as I've been saying to friends and all those who I campaign with, let's activate NABJ Region 1. I thank you all for this opportunity, and I thank you for the time. And I'm committed to this work, and I'm going to bust my tail to make sure this region is absolutely amazing during this opportunity.
Melanie?
Sure. So this election is important because it's going to help shape the next 50 years of NABJ. I am committed to not just leading, but building, connecting, and elevating. I answered the call to serve, and I want to continue to do the work. I was appointed because I'm a doer. I'm not going to promise you a bunch of things that I can't deliver because I don't know what it takes to actually do the job. Region 1 is the largest region. It's home to the most talented, driven, and passionate journalists and media professionals in this country. Like I said, I know what it takes to get the job done because I am doing it. I've raised more than $20,000. I'm here to serve the mission and the members. I will continue to be a voice and an advocate for the chapters of Region 1. So if you want stronger chapters, a stronger region, you want more conferences that deliver and mentorship that moves us forward, I hope I have earned your vote. And please re-elect me for Region 1 Director.
Very much. And we'll move next to VP of broadcast candidates. We'll start this time with Walter. Walter?
All right, so I have prepared remarks, but I'm going to speak from the heart. I love NABJ. NABJ is like a family. We love each other. Sometimes we argue with each other, but we are all that we have. And in this critical moment, we have to meet the moment and we have to support each other. And what NABJ needs to help lead us in the next 50 years are folks who are committed to this organization, who are committed to service, and who have shown through their track record. And I believe that is something that I have done in the past 2 years. So what I will be doing if I'm reelected, is building on what I have already done, building on my experience as treasurer, building on my experience as co-chair of the Young Journalist Task Force. So I love NABJ. I want to give back to NABJ. I'm available to all our members, not just, at the board meetings or at conventions. I'm working year round. Yesterday, I got a call from somebody saying, hey, I just got a subpoena. What do I do? And I'm like, well, let's talk about that, right? Oh, sorry. So anyway, I love NABJ. I want to give back. I'm going to continue building upon of what I've already done. So hopefully I've earned your vote.
Hey, Raylan?
Yes, thank you for having me tonight. As you know, people are my passion. I believe in bold leadership and new tools so we can all reach one shared goal, right? NABJ enhancing its position as a world-class organization, the first stop for information, advocacy, and education. We are more than a weekly convention. We are 24/7. Like the headlines, Black media is not transactional. Our voices and our narratives matter well beyond the tragedies and all the civil rights stories. I look forward to this journey and will always be here for you to support you and fight for you because these are all of our shared experiences. I hope you elect me.
Great. And we'll move on to our presidential candidates. We'll go in reverse order again. So we'll start with Dion this time.
All right. I appreciate the time in ABJ. Listen, I am about results. I'm about action. And so I want to just lay out in the time I have left my 10-step action plan to get NABJ back on track. Step 1 is to take bold action to protect our members by establishing a rapid response team to provide legal and public support for NABJ members facing layoffs, termination, mistreatment, or injustice in the workplace. Step 2, we're going to cut convention attendance costs by 90% or more for emerging journalists and cut hotel costs for all members by 50%. Step 3 is upgrade convention programming for all career stages. Step 4, we are going to fund local chapters with direct investment. I'm talking about setting aside $250,000 for local and regional events for local chapters and task forces. Step 5, we're going to hire experts to grow NABJ's impact, bringing on key executives like a chief technology officer, chief financial officer, and a director of philanthropic partnerships. Step 6, revitalize NABJ online as a powerhouse for jobs and community. Step 7, we are going to turn our investments into a revenue source. We are going to revise and change the misguided investment strategy that caused NABJ to lose out on more than $5 million. And if you want to learn more about those because of time, Dion for NABJPres.com.
There we go. And move on to Ken. Ken, you have the floor.
So thank you all for this opportunity. I know you can do other things tonight. I ask you to do one thing, and that is look at track record, because anybody can make promises to you, but what they've done in the past, that matters. And I can tell you in my years of service with NABJ, every year we increase. My first year, we had the most attended regional conference. The next year, we blew that up and we had the biggest fundraising in a regional conference. As NABJ VP of broadcast, we did advocacy on Hollywood Foreign Press Association. We did ABC News. We did CBS News. We made difference in several levels. And following that up, we went in and we made sure that we cleaned up house in different areas, changing policy for Tegna, changing policy indeed also for Nexstar, and then being engaged and involved in what happens in the future of this organization and the lives of our journalists. Those things matter, and those things show you what you can do from this point forward. Every year I've done more, and I'll do it for you again in my next term as NABJ president.
All right, and Aaron?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm running for NABJ president because I believe in who we are, and I believe in who we must become. You all deserve leadership that is meeting the moment. From my start in the Black press to being a founder of the 19th, I've walked the shoes of our students, of our freelancers, of our chapter leaders, and our newsroom veterans. I've served this organization, I've challenged it, I've helped it grow, and I've never stopped believing in our promise. But right now, we need more than belief. We need action. Advocacy that's not reactive, but responsive. Innovation that meets the future head on. I've been driving the conversation in this campaign around AI. We need a clear vision for how we lead, not just show up in this industry. At the 19th, I've built something transformational, and I've built it with the same values that NABJ taught me. Equity, integrity, courage. That's what I'm going to bring to this presidency. NABJ doesn't need to be rescued. It needs to be reimagined. And if you want something different, something bold, something that's rooted in both legacy and vision,
10 seconds.
One with the reputation and the relationships to lead now. My career has been shaped by NABJ, and my leadership in NABJ has helped shape our industry. So let's write the next chapter of NABJ together. You can learn more by going to my website, aaronfornabj.com, where you can also sign up for my free campaign newsletter. Thanks.
All right. Candidates, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion tonight. I feel like we had a very good discussion. I got a lot more questions, unfortunately, we didn't get to, of course, as well as we had a lot of questions from attendees. But attendees, I definitely encourage you all to reach out to the candidates if you have more questions, and just get involved. Get involved however you can with NABJ, join task force, make sure you're in Cleveland, make sure you're at regional conferences, whatever's going on, just get involved and get engaged and find your place in this great organization, because we got another 50 years to go and eternity. So I thank you all for having me here as the moderator. I truly appreciate it. It's an honor. And I will go ahead and pass the floor back to Lynn. Lynn?
Hello, thanks everyone. I have just been mesmerized throughout this whole forum. So thanks to everybody for participating and just making this a very successful event. Thanks to everyone, and I must say I wish everybody the best of luck. Everybody, and thank you, Tyler. You did an excellent job. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So it seems like we have a couple more minutes. So I will encourage you to attend next week's forum as well. It will be exciting, hopefully. And now that the candidates, you have been here, then I know you will come back and support us next week. Okay, thanks to everyone. Have a wonderful week.
Have a great holiday weekend as
Take care,
well.
everyone. Happy holidays.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.